1977 in the United States, TV and radio newscasts announce that the president is missing and nukes could be dropped soon. However, at a party, the host turns all devices off and asks people to have fun. In the garden, Cooper entertains the kids with his cowboy act. After the show is over, Cooper watches in horror as a bomb falls in the city with a huge explosion, bringing the world to an end. The shockwave soon hits the house and breaks the windows, so everyone panics and starts running. The hosts hide in their bunker and punch those who try to sneak with them while others go away in their cars. Cooper escapes on his horse with his daughter while more explosions can be seen in the distance. 219 years later, a privileged part of humanity lives in underground bunkers known as vaults because the surface has become too dangerous. Lucy lives in Vault 33 and has great skills that she uses to help the community like pipe fitting, science knowledge, teaching, gymnastics, and fencing. One day she asks the council for permission to participate in the triennial trade with Vault 32, an event that should allow her to get a husband, and the council approves her request. Lucy's family helps her get pretty for the occasion and even prepares a little party to celebrate. Then they escort her to the entrance of Vault 32 where she meets her future husband Monty, who is rather shy and awkward. Monty joins Vault 33 and after a ceremony to make the marriage official, the families enjoy the party. While everyone is distracted, Monty and Lucy go to their room and quickly get down to business. Meanwhile, Lucy's brother Norman visits Vault 32 and is shocked to see a dead field of wheat. He enters the nearest house and notices it's a mess, as if someone ransacked it. When he goes to a room in the back, he discovers that the vault leader, also known as Overseer, has been murdered. Suddenly Lucy hears some noises and yelling in the distance. Soon she also hears shots, so she grabs her computer brace known as a Pip-Boy to scan Monty. It turns out he's from the surface, meaning he and his family are actually raiders that infiltrated the vaults. After raiding 32, they pretended to be locals to gain access to 33. Monty attacks Lucy and a fight ensues, which results in Monty throwing Lucy against the oven before grabbing a knife. Lucy soon recovers and attacks to get the knife from him, yet Monty quickly overpowers her and manages to stab her. At that moment the alarm goes off and Monty gets distracted, so Lucy uses the chance to knock him out with a blender. Afterward Lucy gets an injection and leaves her room, only to discover many of her loved ones have been killed and this vault is being raided too. She gets some weapons and goes outside, killing a raider in the way. The party has become a battleground as the locals fight the raiders with both sides losing more and more lives every second. One raider even gets caught at the door and crushed. Lucy carefully moves around, shooting raiders when she has the chance. Norman almost gets killed too, but Lucy shoots the attacker first then makes Norman hide. At that moment Monty finds her and tries to kill her, but Lucy's dad Hank knocks him down from behind and then continues hitting him before drowning him in a barrel of pickles. Then Hank and Lucy run to the corridor that connects the vaults and find the raiders have taken a bunch of hostages. Raider leader Moldaver makes Hank choose between Lucy and the hostages, so Hank chooses Lucy. He locks her in a closet and the raiders knock him out with tranquilizers. Moldaver tells Lucy that she looks like her mother before leaving with Hank and the other raiders to the surface. On their way out, they tell the hostages to run before activating a bomb. Afterward, the survivors begin cleaning up and the bodies are taken away for compost. Lucy uses a stapler on her stab wound then joins the assembly to ask for a search party to find her dad. However, everyone refuses because the surface it's too dangerous. Noticing his sister won't give up, Norman convinces gatekeeper Chet to open the door for her in secret. Chet wants to go with Lucy, but she tranquilizes him and says goodbye to Norman before finally stepping out. This is the first time she sees the outside, so she's overwhelmed by the strong sunlight, the ruins of what used to be a city, the bodies everywhere, and the vastness of the ocean. Somewhere else on the surface, Max is training with the Brotherhood of Steel, an organization whose goal is to preserve advanced technology and regulate its usage because they don't believe humanity can be trusted with it. They acquire technology to prevent another apocalypse. Max is often bothered by the other cadets, who like to beat him up for fun. In class, the teacher also hits him when he fails to answer a question. One afternoon, a bunch of aircraft land on the training ground and the students get to see knights wearing T-60 power armor, which makes them hope they can be like that one day. Moments later after the night settled down, Max and his best friend Dane sneak around to look at the armors up close and Max remembers the day he met a knight as a kid, which inspired him to join the Brotherhood. Sometime later, Max learns that a bunch of cadets have been chosen to become squires and join the knights in the wild. This includes Dane, so Max is sad that he'll lose his only friend. The next morning, Dane screams when they put on their boots because someone has dropped razor blades in them, sabotaging their chances to leave. The leaders think Max did it, so they immediately take him away for interrogation. Max swears that he didn't do it and that he's loyal to the Brotherhood, willing to do anything necessary to help even if it's deadly. To his surprise, these words get him Dane's position as a squire. Afterward Max attends a ceremony for his initiation. A knight heats up the metal hand and touches Max's back, leaving the mark of the Brotherhood as a scar. Then he joins a mission debrief. They must find a wanted man who escaped the Enclave, a paramilitary organization seen as the direct continuation of the US government. The group is given a picture of the man and his dog companion while they learn he's stolen a very dangerous object that must be retrieved to prevent a tragedy. Max is assigned to a night and leaves in an aircraft, excited to get started. Elsewhere, a group of bounty hunters approach a fortress and kill the guard outside. They make it to the cemetery because they're searching for a notorious bounty hunter who has been held captive for several years. Apparently this hunter is kept buried alive, and once a year the fortress leader digs him up, cuts off a few pieces, and buries him again. As they look around, they find a grave with a pair of 4 bags attached and tubes emerging from the dirt. The bounty hunters realize this guy is a ghoul, which is the name given to mutated humans. Then the group digs up the coffin and places the chicken in front of it as a test to check if the ghoul is mad or not. When they open the coffin, the ghoul emerges and it's revealed to be Cooper. He playfully picks up the chicken and the group proposes they work together to secure a large bounty, which is the same guy the Brotherhood is after. They know the man is going to California to look for Moldaver, pointing out Cooper used to be from there. However, Cooper takes offense to the mention of his past and immediately attacks, killing 2 of the hunters and wounding the third one, who he throws into his old grave before leaving. A flashback then shows that in the Enclave, Dr. Wilzig helps with the dog breeding program. He doesn't approve of the Enclave's practice of incinerating newborn puppies that weigh less than 10 ounces, so he falsifies a record to spare the life of an underweight puppy. This dog is given the designation CX-404, and through the years, Wilzig trains her to be a good, loyal pet, who keeps him company while he experiments in secret. He creates a small pulsating blue bead which he injects in his neck. One day, a coworker catches him red-handed and threatens to report him, so Wilzig struggles against him to stop him. CX-404 jumps out and attacks the guy, killing him to protect her master. Afterward, Wilzig and CX-404 escape the facility while avoiding gunfire from a turret, and now they're the wanted criminals the Brotherhood is after. Back to Lucy, she wanders through the ruins and is shocked to discover the remains of a family who used poison to end things for themselves. It seems they thought that was better than living in the apocalypse. That night she sleeps by a campfire, only to suddenly be woken up by CX-404's growling. While the dog attacks a mutated roach hiding nearby, Lucy turns around and finds Wilzig staring at her. He then explains how radroaches became larger and more predatory when they evolved from normal cockroaches. Wilzig urges Lucy to go home because the wastelands are too dangerous, but Lucy refuses to leave without her dad. Disappointed, Wilzig says that her goals will change when the circumstances transform her into a different animal and leaves with CX-404. In the morning, Wilzig and CX-404 stop to rest by some discarded chemical waste barrels. CX-404 enters a cave and leaves carrying a human hand in her mouth, making Wilzig realize a dangerous monster is nearby. Meanwhile, Max tries to bond with Knight Titus, but he's ignored. Eventually Titus gets bored and asks the pilot to drop them earlier, not caring about their assigned area. Titus grabs Max and they jump out of the aircraft to then start wandering through the wilderness. Moments later, they reach the area with the cave and find evidence that Wilzig was there. They decide to enter the cave, and while they look around, they're attacked by a mutated bear known as Yao Guai. Titus's weapon immediately gets destroyed, so he tries throwing a few punches, but they do nothing, so he runs away in fear. The Yao Guai goes after him and quickly knocks him down before it starts shaking the armor. Titus begs for help, so Max comes out and shoots the Yao Guai in the head. Then Max removes the helmet and goes to his bag to find medicine. Titus blames Max for what happened, insulting him while detailing the things they do to squires that fail their jobs. Disgusted by the knight's cowardice, Max decides not to give Titus the medicine, saying he doesn't deserve to be a knight. Once Titus dies, Max takes the armor and tests its strength, bringing down some ruins in the process. Nearby, he notices a chicken collector beating up a salesman, so he pulls him back by his hair and lets the salesman go. However, the chicken collector reveals that he was beating the salesman for molesting his chickens. When Max raises his hands in shame, he discovers his suit contains jets in the arms. After lots of walking, Lucy makes it to the Philly marketplace, but nobody answers her questions when she asks about her dad. Suddenly she sees some vault tech in a shop and goes inside to ask the clerk where she got it, but the clerk gets scared when Lucy mentions Moldaver and kicks her out. On her way out, Lucy bumps into Wilzig, who can tell she's from Vault 33 and starts naming all he knows about it before asking her to go home again. Before Lucy can ask how he knows all that, Cooper shows up, not caring about Philly's ban on ghouls. The clerk also comes out and explains she's been paid to transport Wilzig out of Philly, so Cooper shoots him and makes him lose a leg. Everyone rushes to hide and the clerk announces she'll pay 1,000 bottle caps to whoever can kill Cooper. A gunfight ensues as the locals open fire, determined to kill Cooper for the reward. However, since he's a ghoul, Cooper isn't affected much and goes around killing his enemies without trouble. Lucy uses the distraction to sneak back into the shop and finds Moldaver's name on the clerk's log. She also finds a gun on the wall and takes it for herself. Outside, Cooper brings down the clerk, but when he tries to capture Wilzig, he's jumped on by CX-404, so Cooper stabs her. Then Lucy comes out and shoots Cooper with a tranquilizer, which does nothing to him. Cooper tries to shoot back, but at that moment Max shows up and pushes her out of the way. He tells Lucy that Wilzig is important, asking her to protect him while he fights. Lucy and the clerk rush to drag Wilzig into the shop while Max goes after Cooper, causing some damage in town as he figures out how to use the armor's weapons. In the shop, the clerk uses a machine to cut off a bit more of Wilzig's leg and gives him a metal prosthetic. Then she tells Lucy that Wilzig must be taken to Moldaver, so Lucy agrees to escort him, hoping it'll take her to her dad. While the duo escapes, Cooper and Max continue to fight on the streets. Unfortunately, Max is still having trouble controlling the armor and Cooper cuts a cable on the back that makes Max float. Cooper then hits him with a rope and sends him flying, so Max wanders in the sky until he crash lands a few miles away from there. Afterward, Cooper heals CX-404 and starts following her as she looks for her master. A few hours later, Wilzig asks Lucy to stop to rest, only to suddenly announce he's self-deleting with poison. Before he dies, he tells Lucy to take his head to Moldaver and change the future. Seeing no other choice, Lucy swallows her disgust and begins cutting. Eventually, Cooper and CX-404 reach this area, but the only thing left is Wilzig's headless body. After taking some medicine, he and the dog start following Lucy's footsteps on the sand. Meanwhile, Lucy continues to travel while carrying the head. When she stops to camp, she takes a closer look and a spark keeps hitting her fingers whenever she touches Wilzig's neck. Just in case, she puts a tracker inside the nose. Elsewhere, Max is trying to fix the suit when a message from the base comes through the radio. Max imitates Titus' voice and says his squire is dead, but when the leaders say they'll send him another one, he panics and destroys the radio. Afterward, he returns to the marketplace to buy the parts he needs, but since he doesn't have enough money, he has no choice but to sell some teeth. When he returns to the armor, Max finds it surrounded by raiders. He tries to fight them off, but there are too many of them and quickly overpower him, leaving him beaten on the ground. Refusing to give up, Max grabs some tools and tries again, knocking out two of the guys. In the struggle with the others, the raiders push him into the armor and he accidentally crushes the skull of an enemy, so the remaining one runs away. At that moment, a Brotherhood aircraft flies by to drop Thaddeus, the new squire. Max has no choice but to put on the armor and pretend to be Titus. Thaddeus believes him and they leave together. Since Thaddeus is one of the guys that used to bother Max, now Max can have his revenge by making him do all kinds of menial tasks like climbing trees to get apples. Eventually, they also find Wilzig's body and begin following Lucy's trail. While they walk, Thaddeus shares he used to be the main victim of his classmates, and when Max arrived as the latest newbie, Thaddeus redirected the attention to him, but he feels very bad about it. In Vault 33, the council decides on a punishment. Chet is no longer the gatekeeper, and Norman is given rather demeaning tasks like bringing food to the locked-up raiders. Later, the council announces they'll rehabilitate the raiders to make them Vault citizens. Norman points out they're murderers that should be executed, but everyone's repulsed by the idea. At that moment, a technician says they barely have water left for the locals, so they can't keep up with the raiders as well. Back to Lucy, she makes it to a flooded city and tries to befriend a deer, only for a monster to burst out of the water and steal the deer before hiding again. When Lucy turns around, the monster attacks and drags her away, so Lucy shoots it. The monster lets go of her, but it takes the head as it flees. Lucy gets ready to jump in the water and follow the tracker, however Cooper shows up and hits her. After Lucy explains what happened, Cooper ties her up and throws her in the water as bait. Soon the monster shows up and Cooper drags Lucy out, forcing the massive creature to leave the water. It quickly grabs Lucy's leg and pushes Cooper away, but as Lucy starts hitting it with her bag, CX-404 bites it and scares it off. Feeling defeated, Cooper decides to leave and drags Lucy with him. Moments later, Max and Thaddeus show up and the monster tries to attack them. Max opens fire but his bullets don't do much. Suddenly Thaddeus shoots at the beast from afar, causing it to go after him. As it tries to swallow Thaddeus, Max pulls from the other side, causing Thaddeus' feet to hit the monster's throat so much that it ends up puking to death. Wilzig's head comes out and CX-404 immediately appears to check on it. After a long walk, Lucy and Cooper arrive at an old clinic where they find another ghoul squirming in pain because he's out of medicine. Cooper shoots him to end his misery, then he starts cutting the flesh off to make jerky. Lucy protests, but Cooper just forces her to help. Afterward, the duo stops to get water from a dirty puddle and suddenly Cooper starts having a coughing fit. Lucy uses the chance to run away, only to almost fall into a giant chasm. Since she freezes, Cooper can simply use his rope to drag her back. A desperate Lucy bites Cooper's hand and accidentally takes a finger, so Cooper cuts off one of hers in return. Eventually the duo makes it to the Super Duper Mart, where Cooper wants to exchange Lucy for the medicine that keeps him sane. After he sends her into the building, he immediately passes out. Inside, Lucy is found by a robot, who gives her a synthetic finger before tranquilizing her as it announces it'll harvest her organs. Soon Lucy wakes up on a stretcher, and while the robot takes her away, she discovers there are mutating women kept in cages with 2 bandits as guards. In the operation room, the robot brings out a saw, so Lucy kicks it and jumps off the stretcher. Then she grabs a defibrillator and catches the saw with it, electrocuting the robot until it breaks down. Afterward, Lucy finds a weapon and takes the robot to threaten the bandits, explaining she filled the robot's syringes with poison. They agree to let them go and open the cages, so all the women run away except for one that has fully become a ghoul. To Lucy's surprise, cages she didn't see also open to release a bunch of mad ghouls, who attack the bandits until they've all killed each other. The last woman comes after Lucy too, so she has no choice but to kill her. On her way out, Lucy tells Cooper that she'll never be like him and gives him some medicine. After she leaves, Cooper enters the building and finds much more medicine. He also finds a movie he made during his actor days, so he sits to watch it. In Vault 33, Norman takes food to the prisoners, who tell him the people in charge aren't innocent and have a dark past. Curious, Norman tries checking Vault 32's records but he's denied access. Then he picks up Chet and together they go back to Vault 32 to investigate. They check the Pip-Boy of one of the bodies and learn that the last sign of life was detected 2 years ago, which matches the state of the plants outside. This means that the place was already like this and it wasn't the raiders who killed these people. Judging the position of the bodies, it seems that they killed each other. Scrawled in blood on one of the walls are the words "We know the truth." Going further inside, the duo finds the dead overseer tied to a chair and the wall says "Death to Management." Checking the log, Norman learns that the raiders got in by using his mom's Pip-Boy. Back to Max and Thaddeus, they stop to rest in an abandoned train station. Max brands Thaddeus to make him his squire officially and decides to reveal his identity. Thaddeus refuses to help him lie because he's scared of the Brotherhood, so Max tries to kill him. However, Thaddeus moves fast and deactivates the armor by taking the fusion core, leaving Max stuck inside. Then Thaddeus leaves with Wilzig's head and CX-404. The next morning, a bunch of radroaches jump on the armor, but Lucy shows up and shoots them all in seconds. Then she opens Max's faceplate but hesitates to help him, not knowing who she can trust anymore. Suddenly she throws up, so Max says his name is Titus and convinces her to help him so he can share some medicine, otherwise they'll both die. Lucy releases him from the armor right before passing out. When Lucy wakes up, she's healthy thanks to Max's medicine, and Max explains many people think there are monsters in the vaults and not actual humans. Lucy then offers a deal: she'll use her tracker to take him to the head, and in exchange he'll help her save her dad with his night weapons. Max agrees and they leave together. As they walk, they pass a couple of travelers, and Lucy convinces Max to approach things peacefully. Everyone starts moving with their hands up. When the travelers see Lucy's Pip-Boy they try to attack, so Max immediately shoots them both and gets a wound on his arm in the process. Then he explains to Lucy those travelers were fiends, meaning they eat people. The duo keeps going and reaches Shady Sands, which has a sign saying they had a population of 34,000 after the war. Lucy is in shock because the vault's goal was to repopulate the world someday, however there are far more people on the surface than she expected. She realizes her whole existence has been a lie. To calm her down, Max proves that the post-war efforts didn't work by showing her a giant chasm in the destroyed city. In fact, he used to live here and survived by hiding in a fridge. At that moment Lucy realizes that Max is bleeding quite badly, so they go to some old labs to look for a first aid kit. She rushes in and when Max tries to follow her, the door's close behind him and a gas knocks him out. When they wake up, they find themselves in a vault. Meanwhile in Vault 32, Norman and Chet continue to investigate and realize that the locals were trying to get to Vault 31. Later the citizens of Vault 33 vote for their new overseer and Betty wins by a landslide. Norman checks their election records and discovers all of their chosen overseers came from Vault 31 including Betty, and the same happened in Vault 32. The next day Betty announces she's talked to the people in 31 and they agreed to send people to 32 to rebuild. As the people from 33 look around Vault 32, Norman is surprised to see there aren't any bodies or blood around. Getting suspicious, Norman asks Betty what happened to his mom's Pip-Boy, and she assures him it was buried with her. A flashback then shows that during his actor days, Cooper became the face of Vault Tech's advertisement. He records a tour around Vault 4, saying it'll offer protection against communists. This place is entirely occupied by scientists and there will be 80 in total to conduct a 5-year trial. After work, Cooper's wife Barb hosts a party, and he's a bit disappointed to hear his actor friends say that because of the incoming war Hollywood is over, so working to promote products is their future. Barb is also working for the vaults and already has a Pip-Boy, so Cooper starts worrying about the future of his family. The vaults seem to have very restricting rules, like not accepting dogs, and Cooper thinks they may lack freedom there. This often causes arguments with Barb. In the present, 3 sheriffs find Cooper and arrest him. They take him to see their boss and even give him back his finger, which Cooper starts sewing back on. The boss knew Cooper in the old days, so he tells his men to put his weapons down. After he's done with his finger, he immediately attacks and kills the 3 sheriffs, then he asks the boss why he has a wanted poster of Moldaver on his wall. Cooper recognizes her and a flashback reveals that back in the day, he attended a secret meeting for Hollywood Forever. There he met Moldaver, who introduced herself as Cooper's biggest fan. Back to Lucy and Max, the vault doctors patch their wounds and ask them to wait until they're sure they don't have radiation. Lucy uses the chance to ask Max if he wants to get naughty, but Max admits he lacks the proper knowledge and says he can't because he's a knight. Lucy respects his choice while outside a sign reveals they're in a room called Test Subjects. Moments later they're allowed to go to the mess hall to get lunch and Max compares vaults to a cult. They get to meet Overseer Ben, who has only one central eye and confirms this is Vault 4. He tells them the rules and asks them not to go into level 12. After Ben leaves, Lucy takes a closer look and realizes all the locals are hybrid humans. Curious, Lucy goes to talk to Ben in his office and learns Vault 4 takes refugees from the surface, which is pretty unusual. She also asks about level 12, causing Ben to kick her out. Meanwhile Max goes to check on his armor, which was rescued as well. He decides to sneak into the power room to steal a fusion core and fix the armor, but Birdie catches him in the act. She gives him Pip-Boy and sends him to Unit 428, where they give him his own apartment. Max finally gets to enjoy basic things like television, music, good food, and clean water. Lucy goes wandering and finds a classroom with a model for Shady Sands. There's a timeline written up on a chalkboard and she realizes that the vault has been taken over by the new Californian Republic, which she confirms by finding a flag. Afterward all the locals are called to a meeting to perform the surface dweller tradition, guided by Birdie. Everyone takes off their Pip-Boys and their clothes as they start worshipping the Flame Mother, chanting and covering themselves in the ashes of the dead. They also drink blood and pass around a painting of Moldaver's face, who appears to be this Flame Mother. Disturbed, Lucy goes looking for Max, who is having a great time and wants to do the dirty now. Lucy fails to make him see reason, so she rushes to the elevator and access level 12 to find proof. As she walks around, she doesn't see a monster at the window. Eventually she finds a lab with parts of people that prove human experimentation. There's also a tape showing a woman in a tank giving birth to a bunch of creatures that eat her up. Lucy keeps looking around and finds tons of pregnant women in capsules, but she has to hide when a scientist comes in for the daily checkup. When she tries to move, the scientist hears her and raises the alarm, so she throws a bottle at his face. Birdie and her guards suddenly rush in and Lucy starts fighting them, but she can only knock a few down before she gets overpowered and is captured. On the beach, two wanderers use metal detectors to find gear in the sand. When they return home, they find Cooper in their kitchen and have no choice but to answer his questions. It turns out one of the sons left to join Moldaver's crew and never came back, but his brother has also been enticed by Moldaver's promises to fix the world. Cooper threatens the boy until he shares that Moldaver is up at the observatory. Then the boy tries to attack Cooper to defend his beliefs, but Cooper shoots first and kills the guy. A flashback shows that Cooper didn't like Moldaver's speech in the meeting, which talks about the death of the American dream and implies Vault Tech is corrupted. She calls out Cooper for working for them and drags him to talk in private, revealing she knows Barb. Moldaver had been on the edge of some amazing discoveries that could help humanity, but Vault Tech stole everything from her. She reminds Cooper that war is a business and explains that America has been locked in a resource war for over a decade. Vault Tech simply bought the means to end that war. Moldaver gives Cooper a microphone so they can spy on Barb, leaving Cooper not knowing who to trust. When he returns home, Cooper bugs Barb's Pip-Boy, but he quickly regrets it and throws his own bug in the trash. However, in the evening after seeing another Vault Tech ad, he decides he wants the truth and rushes to the trash can to retrieve the bug. In the present in Vault 4, Ben and Birdie handcuff Lucy to a table and make her watch a tape. Many years ago, a monster broke into the vault and killed all the scientists in the lab. Lucy is confused until Ben and Birdie explain that back then, the scientists were hybridizing humans with radioactive resistant species to try and make them capable of withstanding high radiation. However, these experiments went horribly wrong and the creatures ended up killing the scientists. The monster in the recording actually used to be human, and the current dwellers of Vault 4 are merely the survivors of all those horrible experiments. Lucy apologizes for the misunderstanding, and when she's asked about the experiment in Vault 33, she says there isn't one. Such words immediately get her arrested. As the guards take Lucy away, Max sees her pass by and finally decides to stop being a couch potato, so he rushes to steal a power core. At the same time, Lucy is tied up in front of a crowd to be executed, which in this culture means to be banished to the surface where survival is supposed to be impossible. At that moment the lights go off and Max bursts into the room in his armor, causing everyone to run in panic. Max starts destroying the furniture, but before it escalates, Lucy manages to make him stop and they leave together to the surface. Once outside, Lucy forces Max out of the armor so they can return the power core to the vault, otherwise they won't have power to survive. Afterward, Max shares his real name and confesses what he did to Titus. However, Lucy has learned how dangerous the wasteland is and respects what he did to survive, so they agree to keep on working together to find the head. Meanwhile, Thaddeus stops at a gas station to check the wound in his foot left by the monster. CX-404 keeps on trying to access the head, so Thaddeus decides to lock her inside a cola box before leaving. As he crosses the beach, he's found by the man Max saved the other day. The guy claims to be a doctor and takes him to an old clinic, where he gives Thaddeus some medicine in exchange for the fusion core. Thaddeus drinks it and gets excited as his foot instantly begins healing. In the gas station, Cooper arrives and hears CX-404's whimpers, so he releases her and follows her to find the head. Back to Thaddeus, he finds a radio tower and calls the base to ask for a ride. While he waits, he sees Lucy and Max approach, so he opens fire, but he wastes all his bullets without hitting his targets even once. As he steps back, he accidentally activates a trap and an arrow pierces his neck, yet he doesn't die. He removes the arrow and the wound closes, meaning the medicine the doctor gave him transformed him into a ghoul. At that moment the Brotherhood aircraft show up and Thaddeus gets worried about getting killed, so Max agrees to let him go in exchange for Wilzig's head. Then he grabs a random head from the ground and smashes its face to pass it off as Wilzig. He gives the real one to Lucy and tells her to go find her dad before kissing her. In Vault 33, all the raiders suddenly died because someone put rat poison in their food. The hospital attendant gets arrested for it, but this was Betty's doing. She soon sends out the repopulation assignments and Chet learns he's going to 32 with his girlfriend and her baby while Norman is staying in 33. Betty makes a big ceremony to send the new dwellers to 32 and a guy tries to refuse, but the presence of guards force him to accept the change. While everyone is distracted, Norman breaks into Betty's office and uses the computer to get in contact with Vault 31. He pretends to be Betty and says the mission was compromised, so he's told to go back to 31 immediately. The door to Vault 31 soon opens and when Norman steps inside, he's shocked by what he sees. Back to Max, he's taken back to the base and he presents the head to the leader, who can immediately tell it's fake. The leader announces Max as a traitor for wounding Dane and killing Titus, but before the Knights can execute him, Max says he knows where the head is and Dane admits they put the razors in their own boots because they were afraid of the mission, so they beg for mercy for their friend. Now Max has the chance to explain Titus was a coward, so the leader agrees he deserved to die and announces Max will help him get power. Meanwhile Lucy takes the head to Moldaver's base, where people coexist with ghouls. Hank is kept in a cage and Moldaver is having dinner with a ghoul at the table. Lucy gives her the head and Moldaver immediately removes the little sphere from the neck. Before she releases Hank, she wants Lucy to know the truth, explaining Hank wasn't born in the vault. At the same time, Norman discovers that 31's overseer is just a brain on a little computer. When it notices Norman, it scans him and detects Hank's DNA but still tries to tranquilize him, so Norman just steps away to dodge it. Then he opens a door and is shocked to see buds, which are test tube babies that have been grown and created specifically to keep humanity going under the right management. Another flashback shows Cooper visiting Barb's at work, but since she has a meeting he must wait. He uses the chance to spy on her and learns that the corporation is conspiring against the world, deciding that they can outlive everyone else by forcing an apocalypse to avoid fighting in a war. When they start arguing over how to proceed, Barb proposes that with 100 vaults across America, they can each use them as a scientific experiment to see who has the best idea for humanity's salvation. In the present, the brain explains to Norman the same plan. Vault 31 is full of the executives in cryogenic freezing while Vaults 32 and 33 are the breeding pool. They are genetically chosen to breed with the buds in order to create a class of super managers, people who will inherit the earth after wiping the surface clean. All this means that the bombs were dropped intentionally by the government to create a true monopoly, and it's then revealed that Hank used to be Barb's assistant. Back in the present, Moldaver also tells Lucy this story, saying Hank had lied to his wife Rose too. However, Rose was clever and following some clues, she figured out that some vault civilizations had returned to the surface. Hank had called her idea stupid, so Rose left the vault when she realized he was hiding something. She took Lucy and Norman with her, and when Hank realized his children were missing, he went out and burned Shady Sands to the ground. Then Hank brought his kids back to the vault. As Lucy starts seeing certain childhood memories differently, Moldaver explains that Wilzig's invention is cold fusion, meaning limitless energy. Hank screams as he tries to get Lucy on his side, so Moldaver reveals that the ghoul at the table is Rose. Lucy confirms it's true when she sees her mom's necklace. Devastated, Lucy forces Hank to give Moldaver the code she needs to activate a special computer that runs on the vault system. Meanwhile in Vault 31, Norman tries to leave, but the doors close and leave him trapped. Seeing no other choice to survive, he puts himself to sleep in one of the pods. Back to Moldaver, she uses Wilzig's cold fusion on the computer, but before she can finish the process, the Brotherhood arrives in their aircraft. A fight ensues as both factions open fire, causing tons of death and destruction all over the area. Max runs around as he tries to protect Dane and the Knights use their suits to crush one skull after the other. Hank uses this bloodshed to prove to Lucy that war never changes and his people had been right to want to cleanse humanity. However, Lucy cries for her mom and refuses to free him. Thanks to the Knights' armors, the Brotherhood soon makes their way inside as they keep shooting everyone that gets in their way. Suddenly they see a shadow at the back of the room. It's Cooper, who knows that the armor has a weakness in the chest plate and kills a Knight with ease. Another Knight tries to shoot back, but it damages the power grid and the lights go out. Knowing how to move in the darkness, Cooper begins bringing the Knights down one by one. While the Knights are distracted trying to fight Cooper, Max uses the chance to take the stairs and find Lucy. He quickly frees Hank from his cage, so Lucy tells him it was Hank who destroyed Max's home. While they talk, Hank puts on a knight armor and tries to take Lucy. Max comes to her defense, but Hank quickly knocks him down. Upset, Lucy grabs a gun and points it at Hank, but she can't bring herself to shoot her own father. At that moment Cooper shows up and shoots Hank on the cheek to make him step back. Cooper wants to know where his family is, but instead of replying, Hank flies away in the armor. Afterward, Cooper sees that more Brotherhood aircraft are coming, so he asks Lucy to team up and go looking for Hank so they can finish unveiling the conspiracy. Lucy grabs a gun and puts Rose out of her misery, then she leaves with Cooper. Moments later, Max wakes up and sees Moldaver run to the computer to activate the cold fusion, which turns on all the power for a nearby city. Sadly, she then bleeds to death. At that moment Dane and other soldiers appear and think Max killed Moldaver, so he's declared a hero, but Max isn't excited now that he knows the truth. Meanwhile Lucy and Cooper arrive at Hollywood, which has also become a wasteland, while Hank makes his way to New Vegas. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.